Hello and welcome to Players Guild, our Disney Lorcana players.
Illumineers.
Illuminate, there we go. My name is Loki and I'm joined by Scott.
Hello, your guildmaster here. And yeah, we're going to be breaking down the very nice quick start rules for you all. So if this is your first ever experience with a TCG, or you are a seasoned veteran to card games, we're going to be breaking it down. And if you do have any questions, leave them in the comments below because we will try to answer as many as possible. So without further ado, Loki, where do we start?
We have this lovely scan of a quick start rules that has been sent to shops recently, so it's all over the internet at the moment. Quick start rules. What kind of a game is this? I think that's where we're going to start, right?
Hmm.
Disney Lorcana is a strategy card game where each player makes their own deck before the game starts, and the decks aren't mixed together. You can play with one of the available ready to play decks, make changes to one of those decks, or build a deck that's entirely your own. In a game like this, cards can allow you to do things that aren't normally a part of every turn. If a card's text ever contradicts the game rules, follow what the card says. So the golden rule. Uh, Interesting thing is that the official title is the trading card game. In here, they call it a strategy card game,
Yeah,
which I don't know if it's going to lead to a different mindset, maybe in the design.
quite possibly.
And then a very short game overview. In this game, you race to locate pieces of lore scattered across Lorcana and collect them for safekeeping. Summon glimmers of Disney characters and items along the way to help with quests, hinder your opponents, and challenge opposing characters. With the right strategy and a bit of luck, you can preserve your collected lore against future threats. So this strikes me a bit like a Kingdom Hearts ish, where you
Yeah,
were
I can
traveling
get that.
between different stories of Disney.
Yeah, I think that's a cool way of looking at it, right? Like it's basically every aspect and probably some unique aspects of Disney,
Mm.
and it's all coming together for you to try and get the most lore. It's very different. It's like most card games will have you battling out to deal damage, to whittle down opponents to zero. This is very much a more friendlier. You're going to be building stuff up. Yes, there is battling in the game, which we'll get to, but like this is a cool way of going about it, and I feel is very on brand for Disney, and it's also really accessible to new players.
Uh, Next, we have learned to play. There's a code that scans for the interactive app. I'm not sure that site is
It's
live yet.
it's not live yet, no.
No, not live yet because has not been officially distributed yet.
Hmm.
And the goal to win is to collect 20 lore.
Hmm.
Some card abilities can give you lore, but the most common way to gain it is sending characters on the quest, which we're going to talk about later. It just feels interesting that this is the first game in a while that we've seen under at least the TCG umbrella that doesn't require you to attack your opponent.
Yeah, it's so naturally people's minds could go to think of it. Oh, it's going to be a control player's best case scenario. But I have faith in Steve Warner and Ryan Miller, who are both designing it. They've got a pedigree in various types of card games. That the balance will be there. Um, Speaking
See,
of the cards themselves, right, the typical TCG, we have four different types at the moment that we can go into. So if you want to start breaking those down,
I think there's three different types and one subtype.
oh, is it considered an action?
It is an action, yes.
Okay,
It's a
fair enough. So
subtype for the actions,
right, okay,
which makes sense, right?
yeah.
So first we have characters that you will send uh, character glimmers on quests and into challenges. Some have special abilities. So this is your run down the mill characters, creatures, spirits, monsters, whatever game you play.
Mhm.
This is what represents your army because you don't have anything else representing you.
Yeah.
So you get to collect all your favorite characters and play them. I
Mhm.
do hope we're going to get some cool synergies in movie, like Cruella de Vil doing something with other characters from 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah.
Would be
Yeah,
cool.
that would be cool.
Maybe down the
Fingers
line.
crossed. Fingers crossed. Like, because we've seen bits and bobs from various arcs. I mean, to be fair, the thing that leads me to that is Belle and what's his name? They're both blue and they both work with items. So that I think there is the idea there that certain, especially in the like in their chosen color, I guess we'll say, but it's actually like ink type.
Yeah, it's an ink
Um,
key
yeah.
rather than.
But yeah, it's interesting. So characters are just that, and we'll explain more about the cards when we get to the card
Yes.
breakdown. Items are glimmers that stay in play. When you play them, they can give special abilities throughout the game.
So this is an interesting one. I used to be a Magic player, so first thing I'm thinking about is artifact cards, which
Hmm.
is pretty much what it is. It's something that stays on board and has either passive or activated abilities you can apply throughout the game.
Hmm.
It does not attach to any creatures, which is for me kind of counterintuitive because normally when you have items, you think of someone using the item.
Yeah,
But I can see where it's coming from, especially if we're going to see uh, some items that maybe need to be used by a character.
I think that is very much within the scope of that design space, right? I mean, we've already seen actions can be subcategorized into things, so equipable items make sense to me.
Mm.
Um,
I love how this dingle hopper uh, straightens your hair, and because of that, you heal.
hmm Yeah,
So, of course, we know
I,
that the best way to heal wounds is to just straighten your hair.
of course.
And then the final one is actions. Actions give you a one-time advantage and are then discarded. So your spells.
Hmm.
Use, discard. Very powerful one here. Dragonfire, just kill a character. Banish chosen character. Because of course it's a Disney.
Yeah,
It's
no kill, no kill.
no kill. No destroy. It's just you banish them to a different world.
Hmm.
And then the subtype. And as much as we were reading the rules beforehand, we were saying that it all feels like a typical TCG beside the win condition.
Mm.
But then we have a typical Disney thing. They have a subtype of a song, and I think it's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's definitely somewhere that they've gone. Like the only other thing I could see them introducing that would be truly uniquely Digimon Disney is like theme park attractions, but songs are very cool. It's some
Every Disney movie
mm,
has a very good song.
an iconic song, right?
Yeah,
I
Hakuna
don't know, like
Matata, Let It
everybody is
Snow,
everybody is just Disney. They associate it with characters and songs, which is what
Cruella
this
de
game is
Vil
emulating.
also had a song.
She did. But yeah, so what are songs exactly?
So they're action cards. They have normal cost. They can be used as a normal action card. But you can also exert a character with a cost, or as far as we've seen, with the same cost as as a song or more, to
Hmm.
play that song for free.
So to go into a bit more depth, I have a say we'll have an Aladdin with a cost of 2,
Yeah,
and I wanted to use this song that we actually see demoed here. Then I could tap Aladdin instead of using any of my ink to
yeah,
then play this song.
yeah. Uh, I don't remember now because we read this, but I'm not sure. I think you can sing the song on the turn that the character came in.
We will find out.
We will
Again,
find
it's
out on the flip side. I think that was one of the actions that you could do because it's
Mhm.
not a ability of a character; it's ability of something else.
Yes. So breaking down the cards, an important thing to know here. In the top left, you will have a number. That number is the cost of ink you need to pay to then play said card. Around that number, if it has a nice spirally hexagon looking image, that means it can go into your ink well.
Yeah. So we can see that there is a difference, for example, between the Dragonfire under the actions and the Dinglehopper. The Dinglehopper
Mhm.
has the inkwell symbol, the Dragonfire doesn't.
Exactly. So you can put Dinglehopper into your inkwell. You cannot with Dragonfire,
Yeah.
which I think is probably a way of balancing things out, right?
So we're going to talk about that when we go into the other side of a leaflet,
Mhm.
because at the moment putting it into inkwell doesn't mean anything to anyone.
That is true.
Then we have, of course, the name of the character, including its title.
Hmm.
Classifications. We have Dreamborn Sorcerer here, which
Hmm.
I think Dreamborn is absolutely amazing classification.
It's cool.
Because you have Dreamborn and then you have Storyborn, and I want to know what's the difference.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
And then you have, as mentioned, you this can be referenced. So this is your tags, this is your class, this is your whatever in other card games.
This is mechanically relevant information.
Yes.
Cards will check this, so it is important to be aware of the types. Will say types or the classification. We'll use the official terminology here. The classification is important to know for synergy.
Then we have the ink symbol. So the symbol is there, and I appreciate that the symbol is there for people who are colorblind
Yeah, it's
because
one
being
thing
unable
that
to see the colors.
it's one thing we've stressed to pretty much every developer we've talked about. It's nice to have colors. It's nice to have varying identities, but that doesn't mean anything if you've got no way of identifying it outside of, oh, this card is green, therefore it's green. It's like you need something to
Yeah.
indicate that.
Then we have abilities and effects. Discard special rules. On actions, these are called effects.
Mm-hmm.
On characters and items, most abilities have a story-based name, and
Which
that
I absolutely adore. That I
it's
think it's
amazing
amazing.
because it's Disney. Disney is all about that storytelling. Uh, Especially common abilities instead use bolded keywords like rush, and that's
Mhm.
I see that word and I'm already unhappy because you know me and an aggro player.
It's a control player's worst keyword.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I play this and I attack. At least you don't get to attack the
No,
character
it's like
and
there's no damage to you.
reading the rush keywords that they give us here. You can only challenge other characters. You can't quest,
Exactly right. So it's not a
which
case of
which
drop.
is
Uh,
amazing. As long as they don't give us too many cards that can quest immediately after played, I'm going to be fine.
yeah. And just to point out some stuff here, like I do really like the theming of the card with those effects. It makes me excited. Like as soon as I
Yeah.
saw that card, I sent you a message saying, "Broomer TK when." Like I want to
Oh,
build a
we're
broom
doing
deck.
that. Oh, we're doing
Oh,
that.
100%. I'm brewing a broom deck. Like of course I am. So that's interesting. And so yeah, parts of the
I'm at the
card.
moment more towards Aladdin
Yeah,
because
Aladdin's cool.
one jump
Aladdin's
ahead just is. Oh,
ramp.
I ramp.
Yeah. So on the cards, the ink key is basically determining what type of color slash like mineral you are. You have amber, which is a yellowy color, amethyst, which is purple, emerald, which is green, ruby, which is red, sapphire, which is blue, and steel, which is gray. These could expand in future, but right now 6 colors, with the possibility to mix and match 2 of them. That's a pretty good place to
I
start with, to be
think
honest.
I think 6 is a good
I like
baseline.
6. I think 6 is a
6 is a
good
good
mix.
baseline. In another video, we're going to go through what each of those inks are supposed to be doing
Yeah,
because
their
that
play
has been
style.
explained. So we're going to be going through that, but in this video, we mostly talk about the
The
rules.
macro, right?
Yeah,
The grand overview. And then so on character cards, you will also see a strength, which is how much damage they deal if in a challenge, their willpower, which is how much health they have overall,
yeah,
and their law value, which is once you tap them, exert them, that's how much law you will get immediately.
uh, yeah. That's the lore you get for questing, and I expect tons of effects that increase the lore of your character.
I can see that 100%.
Yeah,
Like so if like you had 2 Mickeys and stuff, and then it'd be like boom, okay, cool. Um,
and then we
But
have
yeah,
rarity
so
key as
one
well.
thing to mention here is that damage is permanent. Like
Yes.
it doesn't go away after combat. So yeah, then right, we're gonna have a brief overview. There are some rarities there: common, uncommon, rare, super rare, legendary. Pretty standard rarity there for a card game.
Yeah.
But let's talk about playing. How do I set up and just get ready to create some Lorcana action?
So, on this side, we don't have the deck building, but very quickly, the deck is 60 cards, up to 2 inks, so you can't
Mhm.
have more than 2 colors in your deck.
So I could be Amber Ruby, but I couldn't be Amber Ruby Steel.
Yes,
But I
or
can
you
also
can be
just be
just
Mother
amber.
Amber.
You can also
Yeah,
be just amber if you want. You can have one, or you can have two, depending on how you want to play the game. 60
exactly.
cards, up to 4 copies of the same card, which means if we have Mickey Mouse, Wayward Sorcerer, and then we have a different Mickey Mouse, we can have 4 of each. So
Hmm.
there's not 4 per character, it's 4 per card.
Yeah, so Wayward Sorcerer, that's the what you're checking there.
Yeah,
Mickey Mouse, you could have Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer, Mickey Mouse from Mouse in the House.
for example. So you bring your deck, your opponent brings his deck, as in every TCG. Shuffle your deck, you set both lore trackers to 0, unless you want to give your opponent handicap. Hand size being 7, I really like.
It's a
Because
good number.
it's a big deck, and you sacrifice a lot of your cards to be able to play more cards, which we're going to go through in the inkwell in a second.
Hmm.
So 7 is a really good number because we don't have any inherent draw besides start of a turn.
Yeah, and so I guess here is to mention where the mulligan system comes into play.
Yes.
A mulligan is a redraw. So I've got 7 cards. I don't like 3 of them. I can put for once only. I can
Yes.
put 3 of those cards that I don't like at the bottom of my deck. I then draw 3 more cards, and then I shuffle my deck. That
Yes.
is what we consider a mulligan in this game, and it can get you out of situations where maybe you don't have any cards that can go into your inkwell, or not enough cards that can go into your inkwell, or you've just got too many high-costed cards. So it's partial mulligans are my favorite type of mulligans, and this is one of the better implementations of a partial mulligan, in my opinion.
I think this is by far the best application.
Hmm.
It all depends on your game, right? Because if you draw too many cards, it might not be important. Uh,
Hmm.
I think the mulligan that we've seen in other games, some games have a well designed mulligan that works for those games,
Yes.
namely Battle Spirit. I
Hmm.
think in general, if you don't know the game, if you are just starting, if you don't understand where your game is going to end up,
Hmm.
which in this situation I think it's going to be like that because it needs to be good for younger kids because it's Disney, of course.
100%.
And let's be honest, it's still going to be semi-competitive because people like it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So it needs to be something that can be easily understood, something that doesn't require too much of a deep thought, because this mulligan can be understood very quickly. I see my hand. Oh, I see that those cards are too expensive to play in the first 4 turns
They're
of the.
missing a symbol.
Oh, I'm missing a symbol, but I know I want to keep those 2 cards because I can play them early the moment I find the inkwell symbol. This is an amazing mulligan.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job there. So props to the developer team. And so next up, after our mulligan, our hands are ready.
Yes, then we decide who goes first, and
Let's roll
then
a
we,
dice.
yeah, or flip a coin, or rock paper scissors, or I don't know,
Fight.
a random
No,
method
go
to
fight.
choose who goes first. And then we go into playing the game. And then we have the second page here, as we can see on the screen. Lots of very small text. So, starting on the top, a turn is divided into 2 parts, which is nice and simple, right? You have your beginning phase and your main phase. The moment you
Yeah.
end your main phase, you end the turn.
Mhm.
I can already tell that there is going to be problems with that.
Uh-huh. I think depending on where the advanced rules are and where that
Yeah,
lies will depend on how those problems are answered. But for a brief overview, I think just teaching the game, you go, well, this is the start of your
yeah.
turn. This is what you can do in your turn. I think that makes sense from a casual perspective, which again, this audience is targeting younger audiences. It does have that competitive element, which people like me and you, we can read that and understand basically everything on it. But for those who don't, let's get into it.
So, beginning phase, you have ready. So you ready your exerted cards and tap them for people who are aware of that terminology. So you switch all the cards from horizontal to vertical. That
Mm-hmm.
includes all your ink sets, or everything. Set. You check for effects that happen at the start of your turn and follow their instructions. I like this that this is a very specific window where it
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Yeah.
You don't have that vague at the start of your turn, you have set. So if it says at the start of your turn, you look for that set window, which means you first get all your cards turned upright, but
Yep.
before you draw your card,
Mm-hmm.
which gives you that perfect. I'm about to draw a card. Oh wait, I have started turn
Yes,
effect before I
I
draw
think
the
that's
card.
really nicely laid out there. And like
I like
everything's
that.
cool and active. I can do any effects that I've got that are pending. Then I draw my card and my turn begins. So
Yeah.
now we're in the main phase.
So
Oh,
just
important thing to note.
very
Yeah,
quick thing: the first player skips the draw.
yeah. So I've gone first. I don't draw this
Yeah,
turn, and now my main phase.
in the main phase. So this is a bit. We're not too sure on this one, right? Because
Mhm,
it's weirded weirdly. Once
mhm.
per turn, you can put a card face down into your inkwell at any time.
Right. So to us, like if you come from other games where your charge step, your mana step, right? Like that's like you do that at the start of your main phase, and then
Yes.
the window is gone to do that. The fact that it's listed here and it's separated indicates to me that that's kind of what it's meant to do. But then they have the wording at any time.
So what I'm thinking is because one of the designer comes from Duel Masters, you said,
Hmm. Yeah, I think both of them worked on Kaijudo as well.
uh, which makes me think that they want to avoid the pitfall. In Duel Masters, you have a pitfall where you draw later in the turn the card that you wanted to put down.
Mm.
I hope that this is not a miss. It's just put separately because it's a very specific action.
Like it's important to know what this does.
Yes, because the rest you can take as many times a turn as you want.
Mm.
This one is once. Once a
True,
turn, you get to do it.
but you can do it
And it
at any
doesn't need to
point
be
in
the
it.
first card. If, in case you have a card that says draw 3 cards, I want to draw first to see what I put down.
And I think that is the way of reading into it, but it is something that does kind of need to be a little bit more clarified.
I would like to ask the devs about this, but
Hmm.
as they've been, or at least the Lorcana Twitter has been very responsive,
Hmm.
I think that is going to be just a fair shout to just drop the message.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, the actions. You can take any actions listed below any number of times in any order you want. This allows you to take full advantage of what your cards can do in combination with other effects, which is pretty much like a lot of games that currently come out. You don't have a dedicated battle phase or
Which
quest
I prefer
phase.
that. I like that open endedness.
It gives you more planning.
Hmm.
So you get to play a card, use character ability that doesn't require them to exert, which means you can also use it on the turn they're played.
Hmm.
Use an item ability. Again, that can actually be used to exert even on the turn they're played.
Hmm.
And then take an action with character that's been in play since the start of your turn,
Hmm.
which means that summoning sickness disappears at the start of your turn. We're going to have a character that plays during your opponent's turn, as soon as it goes to your turn, it's going to not
Yeah.
have a summoning sickness.
The I imagine that in terms of like rules processing, the set step is where it checks to see if a card
Possible,
can
yeah.
do that.
That means you can quest, challenge opponent's exerted character, use an ability that requires them to exert, which means you can't use the character you just played to sing the song,
Mm.
because that requires your character to exert, which is a nice coverage.
Mm.
It's nicely covered there.
Yep, so then they talk about what is a ready and exerted card, which we've thoroughly explained. Vertical, you're ready.
Yeah.
Horizontal, exerted.
Then we go to the inkwell. Uh, Inkwell is essentially for other card games your mana base, where you keep
Or just in general resource, right?
the
Like that's
resources, yeah.
yeah.
Where you're going to be keeping the cards you use to pay for other things. So, to put a card into Inkwell, you can only do it once per turn. You must choose a card that has the Inkwell symbol around its cost, so that
Mm-hmm.
swirly thing around it that we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You show it to your opponent and then put it face down in your Inkwell. You put it face down because it doesn't matter what color it is, because we don't have color checking, and the
Mm-hmm.
front side of the card doesn't matter anymore. It
It's
doesn't do
essentially
anything.
non-existent once you're in
Yes.
the inkwell.
Uh, and of course, the more ink cards you have, the more cards you get to play.
Yeah.
To use those cards, you exert them, and then they provide one symbol to pay for your cards. So you need to
Yes.
have a good balance of those cards.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that is going in there is you only have specific type of cards that go into the inkwell, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is very interesting with this type of a game.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment.
Then we go into playing a card. If you want to explain how we play cards, what I think I've already done.
So playing a card means it is from your hand and putting it face up on the table, the field, wherever you're actually playing. Um, each card has an ink cost in the top left, which we've already explained, and that is how much ink you need to pay for the card. And any card, like so, exerting. So I have a card that costs three. I have to exert three cards in my inkwell. Um, when a when you play a character card, you put it on the table above your inkwell. Characters enter play in the ready position. You can't do anything with them until your next turn. So this is important, right? You can't just play a Cruella and then exert it to gain some lore. You have to wait in time, unless there is keywords
Oh,
that say
I
otherwise.
I love their in-universe reason for that.
Mhm.
You need to wait for their ink to dry.
That is pretty good. I actually like that. It's not summoning sickness here. It's waiting for the ink to dry. So when you play an item card, you can put it on the table above your inkwell. Unlike characters, you can use items straight away. So items may have effects that require you to exert them. You can use them. Sometimes items have passive effects that just generally apply to the field. And for action cards, we have when you play an action card, do what the card tells you to do, then put the card in your discard pile. Always put cards into your discard pile face up so everyone can see them.
Yeah.
Discard pile is like your graveyard, your trash. It is public knowledge. So that is why they have to go face up. Songs are a kind of action card, but there's a special rule that gives you another way to pay for them. Each song says if a character with X cost can be
A character
X
with
or more
cost
cost, yeah,
can
uh,
exert to sing this song for free.
yeah, which basically means you don't have to use your inkwell for that. It
Yeah.
is just you're using the character to pay that cost. I have a song that costs two. I have a character that costs two. As long as that character can be exerted, I can sing and bring out that song.
Yeah. Um,
Questing
I still think songs are amazing mechanic.
songs are very cool. I'm very happy with the song mechanic.
Uh,
Questing is simply a exerting a rested character. Sorry, exerting a ready character that can do it. So Corella's
yeah.
been out for a turn. I can tap it. I can gain the little symbol on the right that says how much lore you get from exerting. Challenging is similar, where you will then exert a ready character to battle one of your opponent's exerted characters. They have to be facing horizontally. You cannot attack a ready card unless there's an effect that would say
Um,
otherwise.
in every situation, if a card says that you can do something that the rule says you can't, the card is
Mhm.
always right. The golden rule of every card game.
Yes, 100%. And then basically that battle would happen with you deal damage, your opponent deals damage. You have the left side, which is your strength. That's how it tells you how much damage you
Yeah.
do. And then your right is how much damage you can take before the character is discarded slash banished.
Banished. Yeah. And then we have a very simple example: Captain Hook challenging Donald Duck.
Very, very epic battle that has happened many times throughout the years.
I think it happened in one of the Kingdom Hearts games.
Oh, it definitely does happen. Sorry, because it's Donald Duck. He's
Yeah.
like he's your
Donald Duck will fight
homeboy.
anything.
Donald Duck is your homeboy, Sora. But yeah, I think that's a really nice, simple, basic understanding of the game, right? I think that
Yeah.
is pretty easy to teach to somebody. I know I could sit down and teach someone at least of 5 years old the basics of this game, and I think they would get it pretty well.
I think, yeah, it has nice. I think 7 years old is where we're going to go at. But it's a
Mm.
nice, simple thing. We have a bit more about using abilities in here. And the last thing I want to mention is that the same rules apply to multiplayer games. The
Mhm.
game, which is rare at the moment, is designed with multiplayer format in mind.
And I love this. We're both fans of like alt formats and just
Yeah.
group hug style games or people where you could just get more people involved um, rather than the one-to-one competitive aspect of things. So I think this is going to be a really fun game for us to sit down with four people and just play it. And then the only tweak to those rules are effects that affects one player, affect all, and then you just go in a clockwise order.
Yeah.
Which I think is smart. Like that is, it's a fun little thing to do. Um, and yeah, we've talked about deck building. We've talked about the order of play, guys, gals, Illumineers. If you have any questions after this, please leave them in the comments. We will try and source answers for you. And I'm really excited for Lorcana. I think this is going to be a really fun, easy game for people to get into. They're going to be able to pick their favorite characters. I'm excited to play with Brew Mickey. I'm excited to play with Stitch. Like, there's so much. Treasure Planet when.
Yes. Oh god, Treasure Planet is a forgotten
It's a it's it's
gem.
a
The
it's a
same
diamond in
Atlantis.
the rough. It's it's
Atlantis
it's
as
one of the
well.
best animated films.
Uh,
Atlantis would be cool.
Phineas and Ferb, because they're owned by
Uh,
Disney.
Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
So much love to the wider things, and you know what? It's Disney.
Star Wars
This
is
game.
coming.
Pardon? Oh
Star
yeah, yeah.
Wars.
I can see Marvel and Star Wars coming at some point. Because Ravensburg actually do have the license for it already. So, it's gonna be interesting. I'm very excited for the potential, guys. If you are excited, leave a comment. But also, we are going to wash that subscribe button if you are new, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Scott Sedman, joined by Lucas Smith. We are Players Guild. Welcome to the guild.